Welcome, my friends. In this video, I will begin my discussion of Chapter 4, Sample-to-Sample Variability. In this video, I will discuss Section 4.1, Observational Studies. Let's first talk about the difference between an experiment and an observational study. In an observational study, the researcher observes or questions the individuals without imposing any conditions on them. For example, we may have a survey where we just ask subjects if and how often they exercise. We're not telling certain people to exercise more or less, or putting them on any specific exercise regimen. We are just asking them if they do exercise, and if they do, how often. So this would be an example of an observational study. On the other hand, in an experiment, the researcher is going to be imposing varying conditions on the individuals in order to observe a response. For example, a study in 2007 randomly assigned overweight women into one of 4 diet groups to track their weight loss based on carbohydrate intake. The 4 diet groups were the Atkins diet, which is very low carb, the Zone diet, which is low carb, the Learn diet, which is low in fat, high in carbs, and the Ornish diet, which is very high in carbs and has limited animal products. The point here is this is an experiment because the researchers were randomly assigning the individuals to one of 4 diet groups. The researchers were imposing varying conditions on the individuals, which makes this an experiment rather than an observational study. Let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of observational studies. The advantages include the researcher does not need to impose varying conditions on the subjects, which usually means that it's going to be cheaper and simpler to administer than an experiment. As far as disadvantages, generally in an observational study, we cannot establish cause and effect due to lurking variables. Since we're not controlling for variables or randomly assigning individuals to different treatment groups, there can be additional variables that are really causing the effect that we might observe in our observational study. Generally, with an observational study, we can only establish an association between 2 variables and not cause and effect. By association, I just mean there's some sort of trend between your 2 variables, but the reason why the second variable is changing might not be because of the first variable. An example could be the association between high consumptions of a particular food item and the presence of a disease. Just because individuals who tend to eat more of some particular food item also tend to be more likely to have a particular disease does not mean that that food item is causing the disease if we've just observed this in an observational study. There could be other lifestyle factors such as maybe lack of exercise or something else that's really truly causing the relation to the disease. And we would really need to have an experiment to show that conclusively. So that is one of the main disadvantages of an observational study. We are not able to show cause and effect in most circumstances. Let's take a look at an example. Researchers observed 100 high school students during their study sessions. They categorized the students based on their study environments. Some studied alone at home, while others studied in groups at school. The researchers then recorded the students' grades on their next math test, taken a week later. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can answer these 3 questions, and I'll be back in just a moment to give you the answers. Okay, assuming that you've given that a try, we are first asked for the explanatory and response variables. Remember that the explanatory variable is another name for an independent variable, and response variable is another name for a dependent variable, so those might be terms you're more familiar with. And in this case, we want to know how the study environment, either at home or at school, is affecting the math grade on their test. So the explanatory variable would be the study environment, and we would like to know how that is affecting the test grades. So our explanatory variable is study environment, and our response variable is test grades. Then we are asked if there are any potential lurking variables. So the causal explanation would be that the study environment is having some impact on test grades. But since we haven't done a controlled experiment here, we wouldn't really be able to say for sure whether or not environment is really affecting test grades. There could be some other variables we haven't collected that are kind of influencing the results. And there could be a number of possible answers here, but the one that I came up with was study hours. So even though some could be studying at home and some could be studying at school, it could be the case that the students who are studying at school just tend to study more than the ones who are studying at home. And that could be a possible lurking variable that could be influencing the results that we might be seeing in our observational study. All right, that's all I had to talk about in this video related to observational studies, so I will see you in the next one.